look at this. We have the boy is in front of the tree because he overlaps it. Over here we have the tree in front of the mountain back here because they overlap. Okay, over here we have the tree in front of the buildings because it overlaps. Exactly. So now we have 5 elements of a landscape. One is background, one is
middle ground,
one is
foreground, cropping, overlapping.
Overlapping, exactly. Okay, now you know everything about a landscape, don't you?
Yes.
Let's get started on our work for the day. These are called oil pastels, boys and girls. We could very easily use crayons. Crayons are made of wax. Oil pastels are made of oil instead of wax. And they're just a little bit brighter, and I think they're a little easier to use. And they're kind of fun, too, because you can actually mix them if you want to. So we're going to be using those in a couple of minutes. But you're going to be drawing a landscape today. In your landscape, it's going to have a foreground, a background, and then the middle is going to have middle ground. And we're going to have
cropping,
and we're going to have
overlapping.
Overlapping, exactly. Now, the biggest problem is, what am I going to do my landscape about? I want you to think back to Trumpet of the Swans. You've all read that, haven't you? Yes. Or heard it? Okay. What are some of the settings in Trumpet of the Swans? Tyler?
Like at a pond.
At a pond, okay. So perhaps in Tyler's landscape, he could put a pond in it. Let's think about the things that will go in this setting here. We've got a pond. What else? Yes, Jessica?
A hotel.
There's a hotel, okay. Victor?
Music.
Pardon me?
A music store.
A music store. So we have a hotel and a music store in the picture, in the setting that you're thinking of. Okay, Tayo?
Mountains.
There are mountains in the story, aren't there? Weston?
Zoo.
There's a zoo. Oh my goodness, look at all these things. Yes, Devin?
City.
Pardon me?
City.
There's a city there. Okay, now boys and girls, when you're thinking about these images in your head of the book Trumpet of the Swans, those are settings, but they're also landscapes or perhaps or cityscapes. Now, is there the ocean in that book? No, so it probably wouldn't have that. However, if you wanted to do a seascape, that's fine with me too, because you still have those 5 elements of a landscape that you can put in it. So let's brainstorm some more. We have a city, we have a pond, we have mountains. We just used Trumpet of the Swans as an example. Think of other books that you have read and think of the setting. Those settings are landscapes or seascapes or cityscapes. The setting in literature is about the same as any of the scapes, land, sea, or cityscapes. So now your job is to think, which one do you want to use? I'm going to show you the strategy we're going to work with on this. We're going to draw with our oil pastels. So on the piece of paper that you have, I would like you to draw in outline form your landscape, seascape, or cityscape. I have done one already. I have mountains. Haley?
The seashore.
I have the seashore. Jada? Trees. What kinds of trees are they?
Palm trees.
Palm trees. All right. Michaela? A little house. There's one here, and there's also one over here. All right, let's see. Sandy?
You have mountains.
I have mountains. Victor? A sun. Okay, let's just, you've summarized everything I have, but what's in the foreground?
The boat.
The boat is very close, isn't it? You bet. Jalen? These trees over here on the right aren't they? Okay. But what about these trees? Where are they?
Middle.
They're in the middle ground, aren't they? What about these trees?
Background.
And you know that because they're
Tiny.
very small, aren't they? So look at what we have here. What's cropped?
The boat.
The boat's cut off, isn't it? So now what's overlapping?
The big palm tree is overlapping the mountain.
The big palm tree is overlapping the mountains. Now, you see what I did with this? It's not very hard to do, but you have to think first. And you draw the close things first, and the middle ground things next, and then the background things last. Now, the other thing, this is not colored in, is it?
No.
Okay, it's not colored in, and that's for a reason, because we're going to draw it first with our crayons, our oil pastels, then we're going to paint all the pieces inside. So let me show you what the final piece might look like. See, here's another landscape. And see where the oil pastels drawings were? Okay, we filled it in with paint, watercolor. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to spend about another 10 or 15 minutes, and I'm going to have you draw your landscape first. Put your foreground in first, then your middle ground, and then your background. All right, boys and girls, each of you has a set of watercolors and a nice watercolor brush. To prepare your watercolors, you're going to put a drop of water in each of the tubs in your watercolor tray, like this. If you need to, just squeeze it gently, just a couple of drops in each one. Go back and get more water and fill in each one of these. Just not fill it in, just take it a drop at a time. Just like that. Okay, now we're finished. Let those sit just a second. Now we're getting ready to paint. I've given everybody a piece of white paper like this that we'll use to test our work. So if you're not sure about a color, you can always try it on your test paper. But first on our picture here, we're going to do the sky first, because usually the sky is done when the paint is very wet and the paper is very wet. So what I'm going to do first, and this is just for the sky now, I'm going to paint the whole thing with just water. What that does is it provides some wetness for the color to put on in a few minutes, painting that whole sky area. Now, okay, so I'm going to have a full brush of water. It's going to give me really light paint. I'm going to put my brush in there, test it. Oop, that's kind of dark, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to spread it out a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to put it on here. And watch how it runs on the paper. Oh, and I'm painting right over the sun. What's happening?
It's not getting the blue on it.
It's not getting the blue on it because it's an oil pastel. It resists the paint. So I'm going to paint right along here. And notice how wet that is. Right? And down here I want to put a little more yellow and orangey because that's what the sun does to the sky. It gets yellow and orangey before it goes down, before the sun goes down. So let me put just a little bit of yellow here and see what happens. Okay? So now our sky is finished. You notice how I used a lot of water, makes the paint go a long ways, doesn't it? Now, I'm going to start painting some of the other sections. I want these palm fronds here, the leaves of the palm trees, to be very dark green. So I'm going to put my brush in my water, and with my thumb and forefinger, I'm going to squeeze it dry, where it's just almost no water left. Coming over here to put my brush in the green. Let's test it. Do I get a good dark green? Oh yes. So here I'm going to come in and start painting in the green area.